Hi guys, I figured I'd venture outside for this one because scientifically speaking, human beings are supposed to see sunlight once a month. So that's what I'm doing now. Plus my kids are inside screaming, and who wants to be a part of that? Certainly not me. That's my wife's job right now. I'm here to talk about the Sigma 30mm F1.4. Now this is my second video in a trio of videos I am doing about the 1.4 primes. I already did one on the 16mm, it's my all-time favorite lens, and I'm going to be doing one on the 56 upcoming. But here's the thing, if you own a Sony APS-C camera, or if you own a Canon M-mount camera, or an L-mount camera, or a Micro Four Thirds camera, you're going to want to look at these lenses a lot, because the 1.4 aperture with this high quality glass, it just turns these smaller sensor cameras into things that compete very much with full frame, at least in my opinion. And speaking of full frame, if you have a Sony E-mount camera, then you can use these lenses on your full frame. And if you have an APS-C crop mode on, say, your Sony a7 III, your Sony a7 IV, like that a7 IV, everyone's complaining that the 60p crops into APS-C. However, I own some of these fantastic lenses, so when it comes to the 60p, I'm going to stick on my Sigma, and I can let in 1.4 of light. That is just, see, that's the thing, is you get that creamy, nice background bokeh here at the 1.4. So full frame equivalent, you're talking about a 2.1 in terms of the depth of field. And in terms of the field of view, you're talking about a 45mm field of view relative to full frame terms, because this is a 30, 1.4, really 45, 2.1 if you're looking at field of view and depth of field. And for the price, did I mention the price? Right now it's $264 on B&H. It's $75 off, so I don't know if that sale will continue. Normally $339 for a 45mm f2.1 full frame equivalent. And let's not forget that 1.4 is not a 2.1 of light, it's a 1.4 of light. So it really turns smaller sensor cameras into things that let in a lot more light. You know, well, the lens lets in the light, but because it can gather so much light onto the smaller sensor, these cameras become much better in low light. And that is a major complaint about people when they have smaller sensor cameras. They're worried about low light performance. But this thing, 1.4, a lot of situations that would be low light for certain lenses would not be low light for this lens or the other Sigma 1.4s. I just absolutely love them. And the pictures that I've been showing while I ramble on here are from Kensington Market. It's a place in Toronto. It's a hot spot. It's shopping and touristy. People go there because it's eclectic, it's vibrant, it's busy. So of course I went at 6 o'clock in the morning when everything was closed, because I fear people. And I'd like to get that graffiti look that they have on all of the doors of the store. I just personally really like the look when there's not a lot of people around. Plus, you know, people don't see me, and that's what I like. I like taking pictures in secret, like a creep. And it also makes a great gimbal lens, as you saw with my gimbal footage, my fantastic professional gimbal footage. I was using the Zhiyun Crane M3, and it just balanced great, and it was really nice and smooth. And this focal length as well, around a 50mm focal length, is a really cool focal length because it's what the human eye sort of sees. You know, like it's the closest match for lenses, around 50, for how things actually look. Like this you're looking at right now is how I actually look. You're seeing me in my full gorgeousness. Normally I'm shooting on the 16mm Sigma lens, which is about a 24 in terms of field of view on a full frame, so that distorts your face a little bit. But this, you know, if you saw me in real life, which you never will because I hide in my basement except once a month, if you saw me in real life, then you would see this is how I actually look. And so when you want to capture things as they are in the world, which you often do with your family or when you're traveling and you want to get realism, it sounds like some kind of abstract painting, but then you use around a 50mm focal length. So this 45 gets me very close to that, and so this is often the lens I take traveling, or if I want to shoot the family, you know, take pictures of the family, or street photography. The lens focuses really fast and really accurately. Oh, look at that. I'm right into your living room. Look at this. And that's great, especially when you're using shallow depth of field. You're going to want the the lens to be able to focus well. Now, some of this is the ZV-E10 because it focuses so fantastic, but this lens keeps up great. Now, let's talk about some drawbacks, because obviously this lens is amazing for its price point. So what are the drawbacks? Well, it's like 264 grams, so it's a little bit big and a little bit heavy when you compare it to some other nifty 50 focal lengths from other companies, but it has a lot of glass in there, and it's high quality glass, and still balances pretty nicely on my camera, so I'm willing to take that trade-off. It also doesn't have any buttons on the side. I like a button on the side of my lens because it can help you. You want to switch to manual focus quickly. That's what I like to use it for, or assign it to something else. And also focus breeze a little bit. So if you're waving your hands around like I do, sometimes you'll see the screen waffle in and out a little bit. And see, as I get close to the lens, and then as I get back, you see the sides are going a little bit in and out. So it's not a lot of focus breathing, but it is a little bit, so that's something you have to keep in mind. And the autofocus is quite quiet as well. People used to complain that the autofocus was a little noisy on this lens, but they must have updated it in a firmware, because it sounds very quiet to me when it's autofocusing, not some of the clickety clacking you get on some other lenses. And the biggest drawback, I think, is lack of optical stabilization. This lens is not stabilized, so if you are shooting handheld video, then you're gonna want a gimbal, I think, or use Catalyst Browse if you have a Sony camera that supports the recording of gyroscopic data. But if you just are using the IBIS on your camera, then that better be some good IBIS, otherwise you're going to have some shaky footage. And when it comes to pictures, it's nice to have the optical stabilization too, but that low f-stop, that 1.4, then you're able to raise your shutter speed probably to eliminate any camera shake you might have. So in photos, less of a big deal, but in video, definitely something to think about. So keep a lookout for the 56 review that I will be doing soon, which is fantastic for portraits, if you like that type of thing, because it's very close to the 85mm focal length, which a lot of portrait photographers like to use. Fantastic lens that is on its way. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and it's freezing outside. So it's time to go back in and hide from the world. Maybe drink some apple juice. We'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye. Like, check this out. Ooh. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Huh? Yeah.